I don't really make plans or resolutions on December 31st or January 1st. To me, and I have in essence 2 New Years every single, for lack of a better term, year, or full set of 4 seasons for where I live, and that is Rosh Hashana, and which is indeed New Year's, Jewish New Year's, and then there's of course the New Year's Eve, New Year's Day kind of thing that will mark the Gregorian currently calendar, as I believe it's mostly called. And so they're very, to me, different. It's not, by the way, that I don't necessarily celebrate either one. It's like I celebrate them both, but they're very, very different for me. Gregorian New Year, secular New Year. It's a party thing. It's a remark on the outer world, the pop culture world. A little bit of how I relate to it, but not so much. It's just, again, it's definitely a demarcation, don't get me wrong, but that's more of an outer world demarcation, and it's also a demarcation for my friends and for my family. Well, mainly for my friends and for my activist contacts. Family, sometimes yes, sometimes no, but mostly it's for activist contacts, and it's for work, at times. But again, it's at a distance. It's not up close. Sometimes I'll have a bit of a party, but I'm not a party-hardy kind of person. Never really have been, so it's generally just, again, I look at all that's going on in the world and demarcate off of what's happened as with the rest of the world. But, or at least with most of the rest of the world. But, this is Rosh Hashana. Rosh Hashana is very much a different thing for me. It's a thing of personal resolutions, personal remarks, personal reflection, personal, close family, friends that are really family, in the sense of I care for them, I truly love them, and they truly love me. These are the people that I'll fight with, and within 2 minutes, I'll still gladly grab them into a bear hug, and I'll mean it. Because again, these are wonderful people that I truly care about, and that's what families do. But yes, I do indeed do the concept of reflection and of looking back on the old and of making plans for change for the new. Not that long ago, I left behind the networking platform of Facebook. I might actually, in time, although I'll probably stick around it, Twitter as well. But at least with the censorship going on, and it's like Facebook was about 5 or 6 years ago to me. Not wonderful, but not a complete disaster yet either. So, and because it's shorter, it's not as interpersonal in terms of direct, and therefore it's not quite as intricate. So it's easier to handle, even when there is censorship. But one of the biggest things, though, that at this point I'm determined to focus on, and this is actually going to really start, is I've got to find a spiritual home for this year. And one of the things that I've got to be careful of and wary of this time is to be careful of the concept of necessarily saying too much at once, to be honest. I'm not, it's not to say that I don't like people, humanity, but sometimes it just gets too much. And I really go to synagogue, yes, to some degree for fellowship, but mainly I go there indeed for prayer and for communal prayer and communal, and yes, to some degree that means eventually making close ties, but I just can't, and this relates as well to my situation. Before I was in crisis mode, I'm really not anymore. Not to say that things are wonderful right now, they're not. But I'm no longer feeling the sense of crisis that I once was, that I was for a long time. Again, things aren't great, things are definitely dicey in many ways. But it's nothing that's urgent, life-threatening, imminent danger kinds of setups, which were pretty much a daily occurrence for the last 2.5 years, maybe longer, or at least most of them. And so and it's also a matter of realizing, with regards to some degree to my work, in terms of the fact that I don't have a job, so it's really volunteer work at this point, is that at this stage, even if it looks good, even if it seems like it's gonna go with the flow and it might help, if I don't really think that I can and I really will do something, I'm not even gonna try to say I'm gonna be there anymore. Because frankly, it takes me so much out of me to do anything these days that, especially, again, we're coming up upon winter, so for the winter months, that's especially the case, and for fall as well, which, again, this weather is already a mess, and that's why I was able to walk out and to and from a place to get some things for the holiday at the last minute, but that, to be honest, this was a wonderful weather fall day, except for the barometric pressure, which made it painful. But I know that in the not-so-distant future, the weather's going to get a whole lot worse on me, and therefore I won't be able to walk as far. It was 1.5 miles each way. Again, wasn't that bad, but it was still something that if there was any snow or ice or real rain, it would have likely, if it didn't kill me, it would have caused some broken bones or some severe dislocations. As it was, it just, but again, at this point, I can't push it too much. Last year was, and the year before that, it was learning my limits. And again, it's not that I'm someone that always plays it safe, but it is to say at this point that I'm also seeing more and more that as an activist, I can't just go headlong into a project and assume that everyone is going to pull their own weight and promise things that are actually either borderline or beyond me, only to watch as most people just fade off. I can't afford to do that anymore. Not to say that I won't give it my everything that I actually can, but at this point I have to say, if I'm when, and this is one of the reasons, if anything, in terms of a regret, is that I probably should have really shown some more restraint and left one of my projects before I did, and been because I can't do it anymore. And I know that, to be honest, in the imminent future, that if I don't get this straight with other possible projects, that I'm not actually going to be doing much of anything except sidelines. But if people awaken, then once they've woken up, and I'll be back on my way. And in the meantime, I'm fine at the periphery, as I really am. That's one of the joys of being out of the crisis mode, is that I know enough now about the 5 boroughs so that we're settled enough so that from time to time I'll be able to, take $5 to $10 with me and go to and interact with a bunch of either sci-fi or fans of one kind or another, or origami, aficionados or artisans at one point or another, and that's something that I really didn't take advantage of last year, that I do want to take advantage of this year, is that, and it's another thing that I've noticed in my activist circles, is that for a long time, because of the crisis mode, it was either I was dealing with my home crises in terms of not having a home, and or living in a place that was in and of itself an emergency situation, or I was dealing with the crises of the world, or of the country at the minimum. There wasn't any real in between. There wasn't anything else. It was one to another. It was one crisis to another, to another, to another, and it never stopped. I can't do that anymore. Again, I did go, and I haven't lately, to synagogue, and to some degree that was a bit of a break, but I can't, I need a better balance. Because I do have significant medical issues. So does my husband. We do have significant issues in terms of, as it relates to our poverty and to our living situation, in terms of all that. This world does have some incredible problems, no doubt. But I deserve the life too. I do. One of the things as well that I noticed, and many people have as well remarked on the concept, is that, and they've seen this in terms of actual job force, when people are happier overall and they're more balanced overall in their lives, they're actually better at the job. So I'm hoping that this will indeed make me better at activism to get a life, so to speak, because I do have other interests. Again, I'm not necessarily throw down a ton of money, but definitely some time, because I deserve that. My husband, again, I'm going to make sure that he gets just some things for his own, fun, which, again, lately we've just been buying DVDs. That might be most of it in terms of the winter. Spending between $10 and $20 on DVDs of shows that we like, but movies that we like. Probably another 5 or 10 is gonna end up going for fun things that me or him or both of us go and do outside. Probably more so me than him, because again, his energy level is more limited. But It's a time for new beginnings, and I deserve that. My husband deserves that. And again, the world was not made in one half in light and one half in shadow, with all of us trying to walk around all in the black, all on the shadow all the time. And I'm tired. Not to say I'm not going to go over to the shadow, but I deserve a bit of time in the light too, and to have some fun. And again, in case you haven't noticed, sci-fi groups and paper folding groups, I'm not exactly talking about doing a bunch of crazy things for myself. But might delve into some costume play, unless it's called cosplay. I was really thinking of trying costume Kimura, because this way my joint bracelet would fit right in. And a couple of other things, one of which would be a character that's mostly orange, which again, considering that half the time I cover my skin in turmeric and mostly dye my skin, that would be fun to play with too. But again, it's time for some sweetness in my New Year's. Some balance. I love this world, I love my husband, but you know what, I like myself too. So, that L'chaim.